Failure Hypothesis is a Meledra digital production. If you're interested in making business content with interest or want to tell your story in a future episode, you can contact us at info@meledradigital.com.
Hi, my name is Vivian Chan, and you're listening to The Failure Hypothesis. Over the course of this podcast series, I'm going to be talking to some of the most interesting leaders from all around the world. From Brazil to the UK, from India to America, all about failure. We'll be testing the simple hypothesis that radical honesty about failure is the secret to success. But is it really that simple? Sometimes, is it better to just keep moving forward? Why can't we just think like a rocket scientist when it comes to failure? To help us find out the answer to these questions and more, we've assembled a dream team of guests that includes the chief scientist of a global tech company, the president of a major record label, a private equity titan, and a Webby Award-winning podcaster. For new listeners who want to learn more about the failure hypothesis and the timeless mission to get the leaders of today and tomorrow all talking more openly about failure, please check out episode 1, wherever you get your podcasts. My guest today is Roberta Lucca, a charismatic and visionary leader who is no ordinary entrepreneur. She describes herself as an entrepreneurial anarchist, and I'm sure we'll discover today she's earned that title the hard way. For those who haven't been lucky enough to hear Roberta speak yet, her CV should explain why she's such a sought-after speaker. As a co-founder of the games company Bossa Studios, she wanted BAFTA for her first game, but she didn't stop there. She founded multiple businesses, is the host of one of my favorite podcasts, Hyper Curious, and was named as one of the Forbes Top 50 Women in Tech. As a friend and fellow founder, I've admired Roberta for a long time, and I'm excited to give her the floor today to share her incredible story. So, Roberta, hello. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. What an introduction. I'm blushing now.
It's all you. It's all you. And I'm really hoping that we can actually dive in and share a little bit with the audience on how you actually have gone through the journey as an entrepreneur. And I know that the theme is about the failure hypothesis. So if you're ready to go back, let's share some failure stories.
Let's do this.
Okay. So where did you want to start from the beginning? You said that your first success was that first company with Bossa Studios and you won BAFTA. And you had, I think it's like now a multi-million-dollar business, isn't it?
It is. We started in 2010 and I was working corporate for most of my life. And I realized that working in these very large corporations made me very happy and unhappy at the same time. I was lucky to be with some great bosses who encouraged me to be an entrepreneur, and I was always like a challenger. I never wanted to do, everything, all the projects the same that everyone was doing over and over again. Yeah. And I found myself being given the most crazy and innovative and wonderful projects and complex projects, right, to lead within the organization. And at some point, I had this opportunity to start my own company, and I was like, wait a minute, that's actually what I should be doing in my life. And how
did that happen? From popping around as an entrepreneur, and then was it just like a new project, or how did that opportunity arise?
So I know my co-founders for many years, and they have been making games since ever. And I was in the entertainment industry, so I worked for a very large TV broadcaster back in Brazil called Global TV. I believe right now they're still the second largest TV broadcaster in the world. And so I've always enjoyed everything about creating entertainment for people. And when this opportunity came, and these two friends of mine who have been creating games since ever came and said, look, there's an opportunity here. We're going to start a company. And I was like, I mean, I always wanted to work in the games industry because to me it's the future of entertainment. And it was like a no-brainer for me. It was a very, very special moment to say, okay, now I'm ready to jump off the corporate and start being a challenger myself.
Very exciting. And what kind of roles did you, because given there was 3 co-founders, how did you guys kind of divvy up who did what?
So my background has been varied. My degree was in computer science, but I drifted into product management and marketing. So I did an MBA in marketing back in Brazil as well. And so for me, it was all about one of them looked after production, so producing the games. The other one is a game designer, so everything about the creativity and the design of the games. And my mission was to make people love the games that we created. So it was all about the publishing side of it. How do we make it big? How do we make millions of people to come and play our game?
Very, very, very nice. So then, do you want to take us through that journey of how you actually just won the BAFTA straight off and you had a great success straight off the bat?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. We had just released our first game, and it was a game on Facebook. So it was the moment that all of the new games were being, coming to the world that were a little bit more casual, and Facebook games was like, becoming massive. So it was it was called social games at the time. And we went into this category for the BAFTA which was browser games. And we were competing with the likes of Electronic Arts and Disney. It was like the competition was fierce in our category. And we got 2 nominations, and the first one didn't happen, right? So we just got nominated, didn't win. And then the second one, I remember I was in the room, and when they called the BAFTA winner is Monster Mind, which was our game, I still remember, I still have the feeling of that moment. I was like, what? Did they just say our game? Really? I couldn't believe in it. And it was a very thrilling moment. It was probably, the most exciting moment of my career. We went on stage, of course. Yeah.
What was the category that you guys won for?
Category was browser game.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, at the time, there wasn't like anything like social games. And social games were based on the browser, which is a very odd name for a category, right? Very unsexy. But it was a really cool game, I have to say. It was super fun to play, and we had like millions of people playing across the globe. And it was a very beautiful moment, very unexpected. I would never be able to craft something like that in my life.
And you're saying you remember that moment so distinctively, and probably that feeling of, what? Did that just really happen? What kind of like, and then therefore obviously winning that propelled you guys for success. So how did you find from coming from such a high, riding the high highs of the roller coaster to coming back down to normality? And then also you kind of hinted at, actually, then it's therefore not the successes, it's the failures that end up you learning the most from.
No, you learn nothing from winning a BAFTA, from winning any award.
Great feelings.
You have an amazing feeling. You have a lot of validation. You feel really good about that. Of course, as a startup, a 1.5-year-old startup, that really put us in the map, right? So that was fundamental for us to be taken seriously amongst all of the different, startups around the world and indie gamers and etc. So that was incredible from a reputation perspective. But I learned nothing from there. You learn much more from failures than from successes, right? And I remember we went back, and it was like an amazing night. We had most of our team there. We had booked 2 tables because we were so excited to be at the BAFTA Awards for the first time in our lives. And afterwards, you go back to work and off you go. You have to build your company. The thrill it's like winning an Oscar, right? You still have to make the film.
You still have to do it. And was that harder, especially now that everyone kind of kept saying, oh, you guys are so amazing? Was there higher expectations?
Yes and no. I think there was more of a validation than an expectation. I think people talked to us in a different way because they saw, you know, we put everywhere that we won a BAFTA award, right? We're a BAFTA-winning company. And there was, there's this kind of credibility, provenance, or whatever you call it, that people looked at us and say, okay, these guys are serious. I think we created a lot of expectation ourselves because we're like, now we did that. We probably have to win a few more in the next years to come.
One is not enough.
Keep
them coming.
Yeah, we got nominated multiple times afterwards, gladly.
Yeah. And I know you talked about this. You learn most from your failures. So if you're ready, do you want to share a little bit more about then the failure journey after Bossa Studios?
So as I was doing Bossa Studios, I got the bug of the entrepreneur. And as one of my investors...
How long in was this? Was this like 2 years in? Or?
It was 3 years in. And as one of my investors say, I became a parallel entrepreneur, not a serial entrepreneur. Because I was like, I can do 2 companies at the same time. I'm a Wonder Woman, right? I can make things happen.
Multitasking.
Exactly. And I got a 3D printer. And actually, my husband got a 3D printer. And then he was printing a bunch of quite like, you know, parts and techy stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, can I print an earring there? And he was like, yeah. Can I print a bracelet there? Yeah. Can I print like a piece of clothes there? Not yet. The materials are not ready for that. And then I got so curious about that, and I started to go into this rabbit hole of 3D printing. And the more I understood the market of 3D printing and how things could change in the future because of the technology, the more I got excited about it. And I've been always following the whole fashion industry. If you know me, right? So I love dressing in a very kind of different way and colorful and etc. and very design-led. Kind of, you know, young designer led. And
stands out from the room, definitely like that. Pop. Oh, Roberta's here, pop.
Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute, the fashion industry is so terrible. It's the second highest polluting industry in the world after oil. And 50% of the garments that you see in stores nowadays will end up in landfills of China because people just don't buy it. And that's why you have all this kind of 50, 90% off, you know, all these promotions going on. And I was like, wait a minute, if 3D printing evolved to the point that we can actually print clothes, that could be a massive benefit to the world, right? Firstly, you're not going to have pieces of clothing kind of logistically going all around the world. It will pollute less. People will only produce things that they want to use as opposed to just over buying things, right? And that's when I was like, there is definitely a business there. And I need to be the one leading that business, right? And I started, and I talked to an old friend of mine, colleague of mine from my times at Nokia. And I sat with him and said, Andre, this is the idea, and this is my vision, this is how we want to do this. And he was in like literally after an hour conversation. He was like, oh my God, you're totally onto something. We have to do this together. Yep. And I was like, oh my God, damn it, I'm going to create another company now while I'm running another one. Should I do that? But then I didn't blink. I said, no, I can do it. I'm Wonder Woman. I have this partner who's amazing. I have other co-founders at Bossa who are amazing as well. Yeah. Talked to all of them, made sure that, you know, everyone would be okay with that. And of course, I would be fulfilling all the hours in everywhere and working my weekends and etc. And I did that.
Oh, so you were still full-time?
I was still full-time at Bossa. Yeah.
And then you're like turn the other way around, also kind of full-time. Like you're doing 2 full-time jobs.
Exactly, 2 full-time jobs. And I had another team there. Of course, we started to build a team and started to build the company and everything. So we ended up with Wonder Look, which is was the name of the company. We ended up having partnerships with like dozens of designers across the globe. We had over 200 pieces, different pieces that were being 3D printed. So we started with jewelry. We raised funds to run the company, and we did a bunch of cool stuff together. And then things didn't work out very well, as you can imagine, right? I burned out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I still remember even you had, I think it was Box Park in Shoreditch. You guys had a little exhibition or something there too. And I remember going in, I always loved what you wore. I think we met in San Francisco, didn't we?
Yeah.
Through the UK kind of women entrepreneur program. And the first thing I remembered was like, wow, Roberta is fun, funky, and I love her style. And to see that echo into the 3D printing jewelry was, I'm like, oh, this is a natural, right? Like, of course Roberta will do this. So what happened? It was the burnt out that you reckon that ultimately was the failure, or how did that unfold?
It was a combination of things. Firstly, we realized how uneducated the market was about the benefits of 3D printing. So we had a shop at Box Park at some point. We had a pop-up at Topshop in Oxford Street. We had partnerships with Disney, with the V&A in London, with the Science Museum. So we did all sorts of different partnerships with different companies as well. But what we realized was that it was very difficult for people to understand the value of that, because printing a 3D printed piece is way more expensive than producing anything in China, right? And we couldn't command very high prices because we didn't have like a well-known designer involved on that. Okay. So we kind of go in between in this kind of premium price point that people quite didn't understand. So we struggled with selling, right, with the actually commercializing the products. But also from my personal experience, I was living this double life for many months, for a year, for 2 years. I don't even remember how long I was going by doing two companies. And at some point it was very hard on me. At some point it was like, okay, I need to do a break, because it's just killing me personally.
Was it possible to, I don't know, delegate some of the work? And in hindsight, like, would you have done anything differently in the way that how you founded the second business?
Yeah, definitely. I actually delegated quite a lot. So my co-founder was most of the time the one in the operations. And I was the communicator, the CEO, the one taking the word out. And so it was a very good, well balance between the two of us. And we also had a team. We had a 3-people team who was with us all the time. So I was very good at delegating stuff. I think it's just that, doing two companies that are starting up, it's just really, it takes on all of the time that you have in your life. You have no space in your agenda to sleep properly, to take a break for a weekend. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I think this is one that definitely, especially for the audiences, those that are entrepreneurs will know this. Once you catch the bug, it's not just the time of day, it's the headspace that a startup or a project or an idea overtakes you. So, when you're starting up one thing, you're always thinking about it. It's 24/7 in a way. You're trying to always problem solve. So I don't even know how you could do two.
Yeah, I don't know how I could. Maybe I was very young at the time, right? Yeah, I
still very young now.
Looking back, I'm like, wow, I was crazy. But I think that's who I am. Mm-hmm. I do believe that you have to take the risk to get lucky in life. Yeah. And I usually, if I look back and all the decisions that I made from a personal perspective, moving from Brazil to the UK, changing jobs, personal decisions that I made as well, I always took the different route. I always took the kind of the road that was less traveled, and the decision, and I think I did the same because I just felt it was the right thing to do.
Yep.
And I don't regret anything. I think it was incredible what we've created. Of course, it wasn't just about me as a failure burning out, but the business didn't take off because, if you read about the 3D printing world right now, the whole dynamics changed quite dramatically. The early companies, manufacturers of 3D printers, sold too early to the big manufacturers, and so the innovation kind of didn't go as fast as I expected, and the price points for manufacturing stuff didn't go down.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of business aspects that also led us to not having the company nowadays anymore.
Yeah, which completely makes sense. And in a way, it's very much the right call, especially with the burning out is, I think, a very important journey that every founder has to go through. But I am curious if you're willing to share, at what point did you make that decision that this isn't working out and that we should have that conversation with your co-founder?
I believe I got to a point that I stopped believing in the vision of the company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was observing all the movements of the market. Of course, I was looking at our sales not taking off as fast as we expected. Looking at feedback from our customers, looking which customers actually really likes the products. And at some point I was like, this is going to be niche forever. And it's going to take a long, long time to get to the point that we have the right materials that we would be able to print garments that kind of warm you. And I stopped believing that vision would be happening anytime soon.
And that is a very, courageous and also, I guess, objective viewpoint of doing it, because you're also the founder. You're so personally invested in it, to be able to kind of step back and objectively go, hang on a second, this isn't driving me. This isn't actually where things are going to go. So did you take a break after you decided to, wind up the second business?
I did. And I actually, before, when I decided to part ways from the business, my co-founder still wanted to continue because he still believed in that. And we did, I was very fair, transferred a bunch of shares to him. And then eventually, the business, we decided to close down the business, and we were very fair with our investors as well. So we kind of looked into, okay, that's all we have in cash in the company. That's how we're going to distribute to everyone who invested in us so far. So we were very diligent on the way that we decided to part ways and to stop everything, which I feel very, very happy about. And again, I'm very grateful for my co-founder. He's, amazing German guy who's very, very specific on all the details that need to be done for the right things to happen. And
I was curious because you said that you didn't believe in the vision anymore, but he kept going on and he actually still believed in the vision. How much longer did he try before you both decided this is it?
For another year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
he kind of realized what you were saying.
Yeah. And then he was like, yeah, I think that's and also it was taking its toll on him, as founders, right? It's like you have a reserve of money. If you're not taking a good salary from the company for many different reasons, you have to have some sort of a savings to make sure that you keep going. So for him, it was like, I need to find a way to, to sustain myself.
Yeah. And I know you've talked a lot about the kind of growth mindset, and also being the superwoman that you are, being able to go and try everything because your luck is built out of risk-taking. So there's something that's really interesting, and especially for me as well, who've made that transition from a founder to CEO, Do you think the skill sets are quite different? And how important is it to recognize, as a founder, what's right for you and what isn't, and when to move on?
You have to have deep self-awareness and understand deeply your values, your strengths, and your weaknesses as well, right? The things that you're not very good at, and the things that you would be happy to get other people who are very good at doing. And I always question, why should a founder be a C-level officer? Why do you need to be the CEO? Why do you need to be the CMO? I've been the CEO, the CMO of my companies all the time, but it's like you have to. I question that.
Yeah.
Why do you need to do that?
Yeah.
Because founders are the creators of the business. They are the creative force, the visionaries of the businesses. And sometimes that's what they bring to the table. And we don't feel sometimes that's enough.
Yeah.
And we try to go into different, areas as C-level people that it doesn't make us as happy, or doesn't make us add so much value to the company anymore. So founders who have not the strength to be C-level, why are you putting yourself into this position?
And
look, I think I'm a big believer in change and evolution and, learning. I'm a hyper curious person. I'm learning all the time. But there are certain things about my nature and about the things that make me happy, and the stuff that is connected to my own values, that I think that's the best thing that I can bring to the world, that I can contribute. And sometimes it's not being a C-level person.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So in all your businesses, you've naturally kind of fall into the C-suite in all of them, CEO and CMO and everything that you mentioned. What, in hindsight now, like, what would you rather call yourself? Just the founder, or what would, if there was a title, what would you recommend founders to explore?
That's such a good question. The first thing that comes to my mind is entrepreneurial anarchist. But I think I'm a creative founder. Yeah. I'm a creative entrepreneur. I am half scientist, half artist, and I don't like labeling myself anything. I'm totally a multi-potentialite. I believe in multi-potentiality, which is
let's get on to that. I really want to. I'm curious on that. Yeah.
I don't think we should be labeling ourselves as one thing, having one career, having one dream, having one, title. I believe that titles really trap us in jobs that are not really stimulating what we can bring the best to the world and to the company that we're building.
Yeah, and I think that is so true, because us humans, we're not just one identity. I've actually struggled with this myself, where at one point all I was doing was being the founder and CEO of Sparrow. Then I've lost my other identities of I am a daughter, I'm also a sister, I'm also an auntie, I also have a best friend. There's like multiple different dimensions for someone. And it's very interesting that career-wise, it's all kind of specialized because society can put you in a box. And that was kind of what I was initially thinking when you were saying that, how come founders are just automatically put into C-level jobs? Is that just because it's easier for investors to know what we do on a day-to-day basis? Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Is it because these titles are there so that society can kind of go, oh, we give you money because we know you're going to bring that to life, and we bring that to life by, that generally is the role of a CEO, for example.
People need labels, people need shortcuts. And I think when you define a title, that's what you're doing, right? Suddenly you talk to someone and they ask what you do, and you say your title, and suddenly there's a shortcut there for the other person to say, okay, can they help me? Do they have the same status as I have? How do I connect with that person? And it causes all sorts of, bad behavior of the worst in human beings, right? Which is peacocking, comparison, jealousy, and it's a shortcut, yes, but I think it's a bad habit. I don't believe that we should be answering the question about what do you do, because that's triggering the worst in human behavior.
Yeah.
It's all about what can you do for me when you say this is what I do, as opposed to tell me more about who you are as a whole person, as multiple identities as we have, right? And, you know, I think there's a lot of stuff about personal branding as well that we could blame on that, because personal branding is about inheriting a lot of company branding principles into how we brand ourselves. And so I think there is a different way to do that. And I think it's also very good for business, because even though the traditional businesses want you to have a title because you become more predictable and repeatable, right? Which, you know, it could help with revenues. Actually, the new generations, young millennials, Gen Z, etc., they're already born multi-potentialites.
Yep.
Because of the internet, because of the exposure they have, all the stimulus that they have. And so if you're not nurturing these people for them to be part of your organization, you're going to lose them. They're going to do other things. They're going to have multiple side hustles, and they're going to be happy with that. And then you're not going to be retaining as a leader. You're not going to be having that person super fulfilled and happy inside your organization.
Yeah, that is really well said. And I think especially in tough times in a startup, it's really how the team looks at the leader and how they navigate failures. And often, I would say, does come down to the founder's personality. It's not the title that they're a CEO. It's Roberta. So what's Roberta going to do now when the company's at rock bottom? Did you feel that that's often the case? Like, do you feel the need to kind of lift your team up and inspire and lead, especially when times are really tough?
Absolutely. It's... Look, motivation needs to start with you, right? You have to be a great founder. You need to be able to pick up from yourself the moments that you feel very low and there are troubles in the organization, which happens all the time. There's always always a problem to be fixed. And it starts from you. You need to make sure that you're nurturing your mind and you're nurturing your energy so that you can stay self-motivated. And your attitude and your actions say a lot to your employees, because they're just, you know, they're part of it. It's like having kids, right? If you have kids and start swearing all the time, how come you're gonna ask your kids not to swear? Because they're just copying you. They're just like, oh, this is what good looks like. and so I think there is something about how you behave and how you, from being vulnerable to being high achiever, you have to have the right balance on your day-to-day, but also be mindful of how you're going to be telling this to your team, right? Because every single word that you say can be interpreted in many different ways. So you need to have a very intentional leadership style to different individuals in the organization who needs different things from you.
And do you feel that you are, I don't think the word better is the right word, but a greater leader because you failed in a few other businesses? Do you think that makes you a better leader now?
Absolutely. I think it makes me a better leader, a better human being. I think failure allows us to change more rapidly. It gives us the opportunity to see the things that are not working in a very harsh way, right? And by doing that and being acutely aware of what are the things that didn't go as you planned and therefore became a failure, allow you to be much more honest about your strengths and much more honest about the setup that you want to create that will eventually succeed. So if you're not failing, you're not taking enough risks. And if you're taking a lot of risks, you're failing all the time. And so if you don't start enjoying the process of failing, you will be a very unhappy entrepreneur.
That is such an important mindset to have. For all the listeners listening out there, I think Roberta's just hit on the most important point as well, that you need to enjoy failing. And I'm guessing failure brings a lot of uncomfortable feelings, right?
It brings uncomfortable feelings, and it brings the opportunity for you to face a lot of your shortcomings. And shortcomings that you would never realize that you had. And I know there are a lot of people, I know that we all try to say all the time, like, failure is not personal, it's about the business, it's not about you. And I know that all entrepreneurs who I know try to tell this to themselves, it's about the business, not about me. But we
always still take it personally.
Right? We take it personally because it's a journey of failing all the time. And if you're not embracing that, if you're not enjoying failure, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. And I think, and you know what? That's true for scientists. That's true for artists. That's true for creatives.
Yes.
That's true for kids, you know? They are the best ones for us to learn from. They fail all the time and they just play with that and love doing that, right? And over and over again.
Yes. I'm now thinking about the new title. It's not just once you're a founder, you should be the kid in residence.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great one.
Because you're right. That's how they learn. That's how they grow, right? That's how they learn whether to curse because of the environment around you or not, right? I think that's very well said. I'm just going to read a little bit about the failure hypothesis because that's the theme of the show. And I kind of want to see what you think. So, our greatest failures are our most important experiments. Yet, emotion often prevents us from examining and learning from these unexpected outcomes. There is constant pressure to celebrate success and hide failure. However, if we practice radical honesty and have the strength to be vulnerable, then we can turn our failures into a secret of our success and help others do the same. So, Roberta, are you a failure hypothesis believer or a skeptic?
Skeptic.
Ooh, I like this. Tell me more.
As an entrepreneur, I'm an optimistic, and I believe a lot of creative entrepreneurs are too. And we tend to filter the bad things that happen to us and just focus on overcoming the problem. So we're always looking at the future. We are enjoying the failures, we're going through the failures, but why am I going to be, in the moment that I'm going to be into myself to be suffering over and over from the failure, because that's something I overcame. That's part of my past already. I've learned, I've done it. I know the solution. I'm going to be doing different now, and let's move on. And so I don't like to be, what's the word? There's a word in Portuguese called remoendo, which is a little bit like dwelling, but it's a little bit deeper than dwelling. I just don't like, and I don't think a lot of successful entrepreneurs enjoy dwelling over and over again with something that happened in the past and all those failures, because you already learned and you moved on and you're already looking at your future again.
Well, if everyone has your growth mindset and your optimistic personality, then, maybe like you can share, how do you move on from that dwelling? Do you kind of like have a bad day, you go to bed, you wake up, you're like, okay, let's move on?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Not even 2 days or 3 a week of...
No, sometimes it can take more than 2 days, but I do a lot of things in my mornings that really help me. I love doing meditation, and not meditation like, the traditional one, focus on your breathing or etc. It's the meditation that I learned from Naval, the founder of AngelList, which is basically sitting down and doing nothing for an hour.
Just clearing your mind.
Just clear your mind. And sometimes there's going to be days that you're going to be like thinking about everything, the banana you didn't eat yesterday, the meeting that's going to happen, and everything. But sometimes you just clear your mind. And I'm very fortunate that I have a very nice window on my living room that I can look outside, which is I'm looking right now.
Yes, your apartment's beautiful.
And appreciate the clouds in London, which I know it feels very very odd to say that, but I love looking at the clouds. I love looking at the clouds moving around and like knowing that at every single second it's going to be completely different because it moves very fast. And I can see them now, they're moving super fast.
Yeah.
And so that moment of appreciation and gratitude, and I know this word is overused, right? And almost cliche at the moment, the gratitude about the world is what I try to exercise every day. So when I'm in the moment that I feel that I'm feeling the weight of the failure and it's really killing my days, I try to reconnect with nature by looking at the clouds. I call my mom and I have like a 2-hour conversation with her or my sister. I try to move my body. I do some yoga. I watch some videos that motivate me, from people who motivate me online. And suddenly by, taking lots of different actions and trying to put myself into my body again and into a more appreciative mindset, it really makes a difference.
Wow, that is, I think, and you do all of that in the morning.
I do all of that in the morning. I have 2 hours in the morning that are dedicated to doing a few things. I don't do all of them every day, but I do at least one, which is some form of exercise, even if it's just, half an hour stretch. I look at the clouds in meditation state. I eat a healthy breakfast. And that's it. So yeah, I usually have a combination of those three. And nowadays I'm singing as well. I'm learning how to sing, which I absolutely love.
Oh, this is actually very interesting. I feel like our journey as a founder to get here is very similar, because now the clouds thing I've heard as well, especially from Andy on Headspace as well, about how you let your thoughts kind of come by and you just objectively view them. But I also, like you, practice mindfulness every morning, do yoga every morning, and then had to learn to also practice gratitude every morning, which is a journey for me, like to get to do the same, very similar things to where you are now. I didn't know that. I didn't have someone tell me that. When I first started out, right?
Exactly. And all of these I learned through trial and error. It was basically experimentation. It was like, what if I do this? What if I do that? And then I get listen to this podcast with Tim Ferriss that Naval was talking about, this meditation that he just sit for an hour and do nothing. I was like, I'm gonna try that, because I wasn't even into meditation. I didn't even know that Headspace was talking about the clouds or anything like that. It was basically through trial and error. And I recently bought a it's kind of a notebook called the 5-minute journal. And it's amazing because it's literally like 5 different questions that prompt you to talk about things that you're grateful for. And then in the evening you write down the stuff that happened that you were very happy about the day. And I think through that practice you always kind of anchoring yourself back into what really matters in the world, and you think less about the big failures and more about the big picture.
Oh my gosh, Roberta, we're exactly the same. I'm also journaling. I do it in the first thing in the morning. So I also write 5 things I'm grateful for. And for me, I think it's that pen and paper connection of writing things down and also being grateful, calling out the gratefulness, but then also why I'm grateful. I think that last part of making it personal to me was really something that I've just had to learn. So it's so rewarding to hear that, you know, all founders have to go through the same journey.
It's incredible. And you know what? I kind of, again, there was a lot of iteration, because I started by doing the morning pages. I don't know if you've heard of this book called The Artist Way. No. And Julia Cameron wrote this book ages ago, and it's basically for people to find the artist in themselves. And the practice is every day you write 3 pages of A4 writing about anything that you have in your mind. There's no prompt, there's no question. You can just write, I woke up feeling tired today, I feel hungry, I should not have taken a glass of wine yesterday, I want to call my mom. You know, you can write whatever comes to your mind. And this practice kind of makes all of the noise and a lot of the random, crazy and useless thoughts be trapped in the paper. Yeah. And then you start your day in a brand new way. So I was doing that for almost a year. And then I kind of drifted off, got out of the habit, and then went into the habit of the gratefulness journal, and it's been great.
Very nice. And you feel like it's easier at night to kind of just recapture rather than doing it in the morning?
I do in the morning and in the night, so it takes me like So with this, I can send you the link, and you can put on the podcast.
Yeah, please do.
It's super cool book. It's very simple. It's a small one page that just you have a few prompts for the morning and a few prompts for the evening.
Well, I want to come back to the singing, because I also picked myself up. I also tried to do singing during this lockdown.
Nice.
There's something about, like you said, the artists, trying to find the artists in us. And there's something that I found very therapeutic with singing. I don't think I'm the best singer. I don't think.
No, I'm a terrible singer.
But it's the act of singing and the voice resonating that creates vibrations in the body that, I don't know, it just gives me a high of really great energy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like, how you picked that up, and tell us a little bit more about singing.
So I'll start from the beginning. I changed my role in the beginning of the year at Bossa. Instead of being fully operational, I'm now non-executive director. And it was all planned. You know, we kind of put together a completely different team, and, you know, all very good. And I'm still, of course, board director, very much involved in the strategy side of the business, but not so much in the day-to-day anymore.
Yeah.
And I went through this process of relearning about myself and saying, okay, so what do I want to do in my life? How do I want to spend my time? That, you know, some of the time that is now becoming free. And I didn't want to start another business, not at least right now. And I started to be very reflective about the stuff that I always wanted to do. And one of the things in my list, I have a list of about 10 different things, as you do, as a multi-potentialite. And one of the things in my list is to learn how to sing, because I always loved singing since I was a child, and I never really had time or the, you know, intention to learn and to develop my voice. And it was very interesting that I started that as being like one of my experiments for the year. So I set a few experiments that I would do every 3 months this year in 2021.
Wow.
And singing was the first one. And then I said to myself, I'm going to do for 3 months. And my goal will be at the end of 3 months, I'm going to go and sing a song that I can sing very well through the training, through practice, on an open mic stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
so that was my goal. Yeah.
And you were training yourself like informally, or did you have a singing coach, or?
Yeah. So I have 2 singing coaches. And I went through if I felt like I was recruiting someone, right, for a startup. I literally interviewed about 10 different teachers.
Wow.
And I found 2 of them that were very complementary. One very technical, the other one very, very artistic. And I have been taking classes every week with them. And also I joined another one that is called, the Think Space, that this lady who's been teaching people in musical theater for many years. She's amazing. And she set up this community that I have live classes with her every single morning.
Oh, cool.
In a group, right? In a group setting.
Yeah.
And so that kind of created this rhythm for me to practice singing at least 1 hour every day. And that's what I have been doing. And I went from, I want to master one song to now having like 10 songs on my repertoire that I want to master.
Wow. What genre are you singing?
It's a mixture of bossa nova, jazz, and love songs, and, all sorts of stuff. And so I postponed my open mic thing because now I don't want to do just one song. I want to be ready for 3 songs. And I'm also talking to a few friends who are musicians, who are into creating music as well. So I want to create brand new original music.
Oh, wow. Very exciting.
Yeah.
You watch the space. You should let us know what happened.
But to your point, Vivian, it's like it kind of, I think the process is very exciting because, as you said, you learn so much about your body, about how your posture is, how you can change your voice in many different ways, how you're not aware of your muscles on your neck and your larynx and etc. So all of those things are kind of amazing learning for me. As a hyper curious person, I'm like, wow, I'm learning so much about my body and about how I can feel much better in my body and communicate in a different way through singing.
Yeah, so we obviously are going to be waiting for your new album. But as a multi-potentialite, you are doing a couple of other things as well in parallel, including Hyper Curious, the podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit more? I think you've got a TED Talk and maybe some exciting TV things happening.
Yeah, lots of things happening. So Hypercurious started at the beginning of the lockdown last year, and it came from this perspective that I believe all the artists and founders, entrepreneurs, scientists, people, they achieve great things in their lives because they are hypercurious. And I'm a hyper-curious person myself, and I wanted to interview all these incredible people who have been following their curiosity to achieve great things. And I interviewed people like Viv Grosskopf, Mo Gaudat, Alan Hamilton, and many different, Nir Eyal, many different amazing people who have been researching or living those lives themselves. And I absolutely loved that. It was again, I had a YouTube channel for about 3 years ago, started 3 years ago, and I felt very lonely at some point because I was creating all this message to the world, to young entrepreneurs, to inspire them to be better entrepreneurs, and I was just talking to the camera. And then and a lot of people were saying, oh, you should do a podcast. Why don't you do a podcast? You're so engaged. You should do that. I was like, okay, I'm going to have a go. And I had a go and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I've done two seasons and more seasons to come in the future.
Ooh, and where can people check this out? On Spotify, on iTunes?
Yeah, favorite, wherever they're listening to right now. Spotify, Apple, iTunes, your favorite podcast player, wherever they want to check. And to the other projects, I'm, as a most potentialite, I like to have a lot of different things happening, and it feels like the TV world is kind of knocking back on my doors, which was where I started my career, and I participated in a couple of TV shows that will air next year. As mentor and judge and etc. But I cannot say much because of NDAs.
Of course. Is it in the UK or is it internationally?
One is international, the other one is in the UK.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, Roberta, for being so honest. There are so many exciting projects to come. And we'll be cheering you on as a Failure Hypothesis alumni. And I'm sure I'll probably be seeing you around the corner anyways for a drink. And for all our listeners, thank you for listening.
Thank you for having me. And I want to say one last thing. For all entrepreneurs listening to us, remember when you are in failure mode that the low moments happen in slow motion and the high moments happen on fast forward. So enjoy the best you can.
You've been listening to The Failure Hypothesis with me, Vivian Chan. To hear other inspiring stories from unique leaders, please subscribe to The Failure Hypothesis on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for listening to The Failure Hypothesis, a Maleggio digital production. To find out more about making and appearing in business content with interest, visit our website at maleggio.digital.com.